Okay, we are going to work on our plaster cake sculpture. You're going to make an armature, and that is like the bones of your sculpture, so it needs to be nice and sturdy. Mine that's completed is ready to be wrapped in plaster. When you have yours completed today, you'll want to make sure that you apply your plaster so you can get started painting. So we took a triangle, which is a flat shape, and we turned it into a form. And all sculptures are forms because they're 3D objects. So it actually is like a triangular prism now. So we took a triangle, we added some sides to it. So now it has a top, sides, and bottom. And 3D forms are three-dimensional, so you can see them from top, sides, and bottom. You can see them three ways. All right, we're going to create our armature. We're going to use our bottom, and mine is backwards because I'm using a camera, but this is bottom, and we have a triangle that says top. So this is your top, this is your bottom. It really doesn't matter if the words show, it's going to be covered in plaster, so you won't even be able to see that later on. The third thing that you're going to have is your side piece. Now, when you get yours, it might be bent a little bit already. I tried to accommodate and make that fold a little easier. However, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to be exact. So you will need a pair of scissors just in case you need to trim or make some adjustments. All right, so be patient with yourself because this is the hardest part of this whole sculpture. You're going to need a roll of tape as well. So getting started, I'm going to take the top. I'm going to move this out of the way. I'm going to try and keep it as simple as possible. So I'm going to take my top and I'm going to put some tape. The sticky side is facing upward. So I've got my piece of tape, I've got my top piece on the bottom, and I'm going to stick that tape to where the sticky side is up. I'm going to do that around the majority of this triangle. It's not going to cover every single little piece, but it will get us a good start. All right, now that that part has enough tape around it just to get the edges covered, I'm going to go ahead and try and work this side edge around my first piece, and that will make it a little simple to get it on there. All right, so getting this on here, remember, is a little tricky. Just be patient with yourself. Want to make sure everything's even as much as possible. So I'm going to take that side and I'm going to attach those pieces of tape tabs that I made. And I've already got some sticking out. You can see that that does not equal the same length, so it's going to have to get trimmed. Have to give it a little shape up. Okay, or see something else. This right here is bent and it does not fit. So where it's folded, where Miss Lewis made that fold, it doesn't quite fit. So I'm going to take the edge of this triangle right here where it needs to be. You could even use a marker. That's where it needs to be folded. There we go. Cool. Okay. All right, and I'm just going to stick that there and attach the tape to it right there. Nice and sturdy. Okay, great. It looks like this is not going to fit because it's too long, so I'm going to need to get some scissors. And I'm going to trim this to be the same length. So opening my scissors, closing. If you want to use a ruler and make a straight line and make it exact, you go for it, but you really don't need to because you're gonna wrap this in plaster and you'll never even be able to tell. All right, now that is a little bit better. I'm gonna go back to my roll of tape and attach another tab. I'm gonna close in my tab right here on the edge. Remember, I had to trim it and close that. Okay, that's good for right now. You still see that there's a lot of gaps, and we don't want those, because if you have gaps, when you add your plaster, it's going to go inside of your cake, and then it's going to sink in. It's going to be lumpy. It's just not going to be very fun. All right, I'm going to take my bottom piece, even though it's backwards, and I'm going to apply that to the other side. Go ahead and get your pieces of tape ready. Remember the sticky side. You want to have all of those going in the same direction. And then we're just going to stick it on. You do one side at a time. And if you get a little gap, a little space in between that, you can see I didn't put that exact. It's okay. You're creating the bones for your sculpture. This is called an armature. All right, now all I have left to do is just go back in and fill in my gaps. So if you want to take your tape and turn it sideways, long ways, you'll cover more space and you'll get it finished quicker. Just gonna go around my entire piece.
Okay, now that you have your armature complete, you want to make sure that you have your space ready to wrap it in plaster.
So you need a pan that's gonna help carry all the excess water into one place, so that way it doesn't go all over your mom's kitchen counter or wherever you're getting to do virtual sculpture camp. You'll need to make sure that you use this bowl and keep all of your plaster strips inside of it. You do not want your plaster strips to get wet unless you're ready to use them, because once you've already gotten them wet, you have to use it or it's going to dry within at least a few minutes. So I've given you guys a plastic container, and it might already have a little bit of plaster that's kind of hardened at the bottom. That's fine to use to put water inside of. So this bowl has water. All right, you definitely want to make sure that your sleeves are rolled up. And if for some weird reason you have any problem with the plaster, as soon as you start using it, you can put gloves on. However, I have super sensitive skin, and all of my students have used plaster without any issues. But if you will just wash your hands with soap and warm water after you finish using, you should be fine. But if you start feeling itchy or anything funny, go ahead and wash your hands and put on some gloves. All right, so this is the same type of wrap that they would use to wrap a cast in. And so thinking of this as your armature, your bones for your sculpture, we're gonna make sure that they're supported. So we're adding on a layer of muscle, something that's gonna make it really, really strong. So you're gonna take one strip at a time. I'm gonna dip it in the water, get it nice and wet. Gonna hold it up, get scissors in my hands, not real scissors, your peace sign, number 2. And then I'm going to squeegee out any excess water, keep it in that water pan, and try to do that on either side because you don't want it super wet. I'm gonna start on the top. I'm going to make an X. So the side that is lumpy and bumpy, that's the side you want to be covering the top layer of your sculpture. So I'm going to make an X, and when you lay it on there, it's going to drape right on top, and you just want to smooth it out. Smooth out all the lumps and bumps. If you don't do that, that's why you got to take your time with this, then it will dry that way and it will be very lumpy and bumpy. Now on the ends where it's kind of folding in, that's okay. So you can see that this is getting coated. The plaster, it's doing its job. It is sticking on there. We're making our armature really nice and strong. Okay, I'm going to take another plaster strip. It's dry. You can see one side is bumpier, one side is smoother. The side that's bumpier is the side that's going face down. I'm going to take it, put it into my water container, get my 2 scissors, squeegee out any excess water, keep it in that bowl. Do the same thing on the other side of it. We're going to make an X. So when I just went across this direction, now I'm going to cover this space. All right, so I've got my 2 pieces on there. I need to smooth it out. When you make an X on here, it really covers a lot of area, so you don't have to use as much plaster. And we don't want it to be too heavy because it might start sinking and caving in. All right, now all that I'm going to do now that I have my plaster and an X is I'm going to do the same on the bottom side. So take my plaster strip. That is a really, really long strip, and I'm glad that it's in here because I'm going to actually cut.
Excuse me, I'm going to cut some of that down.
Just so you guys can see that some of the strips in your box might not fit perfectly and you don't feel like you have to use them all. All right, I think that'll be fine. I'm going to put it in there and take my scissors and squeegee it out. Try and keep it without any wrinkles. And smooth out lumps and bumps. All right, I have just a few spaces that did not get covered, and we want to make sure that everything gets nice and secure. So I might even take this little piece that I just cut and get it nice and wet.
Squeegee it out. And just start covering. So yours is going to look different than mine. That's great. So everybody has their own individual cake sculpture.
All right, when you're finished with your wrapping and you have it all completely covered, all you need to let it do is just sit and dry somewhere in a place where nobody will mess with it. If you want to later, flip it over. If you notice anything starting to cave in, you've gotten it too wet. So you want to make sure you flip that back and forth so that way it can dry evenly on either side.